High above planet Zex-9, in the grand meeting hall of the Galactic Council, 12 alien leaders sat around a massive black table. Their blue skin glowed under the bright lights as they stared at the hologram floating in the center of the room. The image showed a small fleet of human spaceships. These are the ships that dare to refuse our empire. Admiral Kraz laughed, his 4 eyes blinking in amusement. He waved his hand through the hologram, making the image spin. They're so tiny. Look, their biggest ship is smaller than our cargo vessels. The other council members joined in the laughter. Their deep voices echoed off the metallic walls. General Vex, the oldest among them, wiped tears from his eyes. Humans think they can stand against us with these toy ships. On the massive screen behind them, data scrolled showing the size comparison. Largest human battleship, 300 meters. Standard Empire battleship, 1,200 meters. Perhaps we should send them some real ships, Commander Yix said, smirking, just to show them what they're up against. Admiral Kraz stood up, his golden uniform gleaming. I say we send 3 battleships. That should be enough tow. BEP, BEEP, BEP. Red lights flashed across the room. The emergency alarm system screamed through the speakers. The council members jumped to their feet, their laughter dying instantly. What's happening? Admiral Kraz shouted. A young officer burst through the doors, his blue face pale with fear. Sir, we've lost contact with the Third Fleet. What do you mean lost contact? Kraz demanded. The officer's hands shook as he activated the main screen. The Third Fleet, all 3 battleships. They're gone, sir. The screen showed 3 massive Empire battleships floating dead in space. Their engines were dark. No lights. No power. No response to any signals. Impossible. General Vex slammed his fist on the table. Those were our newest ships. What happened? The young officer played the security footage. The council watched in shocked silence as small shapes appeared from nowhere, moving faster than their eyes could follow. The human ships, those tiny vessels they had just been mocking, danced around the massive Empire battleships like wasps around fallen trees. Quick, precise strikes. Perfect targeting. Within minutes, all 3 Empire ships lost power. How did they? Commander Yix couldn't finish his sentence. Another alarm blared. A new message flashed on the screen. Incoming transmission. Human Fleet. Admiral Kraz's hands trembled as he accepted the transmission. A human face appeared on the screen. Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force. Greetings, council members, she said calmly. I believe we got your attention. Those ships you were laughing at. They just disabled your most advanced battleships without firing a single killing shot. We could have destroyed them, but we chose not to. We don't want war. The council members looked at each other, their earlier laughter forgotten. You see, Captain Chen continued, on Earth, we have a saying. Good things come in small packages. Our ships might be smaller than yours, but size isn't everything. What matters is how you use what you have. She leaned closer to the camera. You have 2 choices now. 1. We can sit down and talk like civilized species, discuss trade, and maybe learn from each other. Or 2, you can keep underestimating us, and we'll keep showing you why that's a bad idea. The transmission ended, leaving the council room in dead silence. Admiral Kraz slowly sat down, his legs weak. He looked at the hologram of the human ships again. But this time, there was no laughter. Only fear, only respect. Get me everything we have on human warfare, he ordered. Their history, their strategies, everything. We've made a terrible mistake. As the council members rushed to gather information, the security footage played again on a loop. The small, agile human ships moved like dancers through space, proving that sometimes the smallest opponents could be the most dangerous. The empire that had conquered 1,000 worlds had just learned its first lesson about humans. Never judge them by their size. The real question was, what other surprises did these humans have in store? The news spread through the empire like wildfire. 3 of their best battleships, defeated by humans, a species that hadn't even been in space for 200 years. In his private chamber, Admiral Kraz paced back and forth, his boots clicking against the metal floor. "Show me the battle footage again," he commanded. The holographic display flickered to life, showing the encounter from multiple angles. The human ships seemed to fade in and out of existence, like ghosts in space. One moment they were visible, the next they vanished completely. "Pause," Kraz shouted. "Enhance Sector 7B." The image zoomed in on what looked like empty space, but as the computer enhanced the image, something extraordinary appeared. Tiny distortions, barely visible, moving through the void. "They've mastered light-bending technology," a soft voice said from the doorway. Dr. Zena, the Empire's lead scientist, entered the room. Her silver skin gleamed under the lights. But that's not even the clever part. She walked to the hologram and pointed at the distortions. "Look at their engine signatures. They're not just bending light. They're bending gravity itself. These humans have found a way to create micro-wormholes around their ships." Kraz's 4 eyes widened. "That's why our sensors couldn't track them. They weren't just invisible. They were literally slipping between dimensions," Dr. Zena finished. "And the smaller the ship, the easier it is to create these holes. That's why they built small ships, not because they couldn't build bigger ones, but because they didn't need to." An alarm chimed on Kraz's desk. Another message from the human fleet. The face of Captain Chen appeared, but this time she wasn't alone. Behind her stood her crew, a mix of humans of different colors and sizes, all working together with quiet efficiency. "Admiral Kraz," she said, "I assume you've had time to study our first demonstration. But there's something you should know. We weren't even trying our hardest." To prove her point, she nodded to someone off-screen. Suddenly, every sensor in the Empire's defense network went dark. When they came back online 3 seconds later, the entire human fleet had repositioned itself. Now they were behind the Empire's main defense line. "Impossible," Kraz whispered. "That defense line is 50 light-years wide." "Nothing is impossible, Admiral," Chen replied with a small smile. "You see, while you were building bigger ships to show off your power, we were learning to dance between the stars themselves. Your empire spreads across 3 galaxies. Impressive. But what good is all that space if you can't control what happens inside it?" Dr. Zena stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. How did you develop this technology so quickly?" "Simple necessity," Chen answered. "When you're small, you learn to be clever. When you're outnumbered, you learn to be swift. When you're underestimated," she paused, letting her words sink in, "you learn to be extraordinary." The human ships began to move again, but this time they did something new. They split apart, each vessel breaking into 3 smaller ships. What had been a fleet of 20 ships suddenly became 60. "One more thing about humans," Chen added, her voice carrying a hint of pride. "We love surprises. These aren't just ships. They're modular combat units. Each one can split, combine, or transform as needed. Remember those 3 battleships we disabled? We could have used 1 ship to do it. We sent 3 just to be sporting." Admiral Kraz sank into his chair, finally understanding. The Empire had spent millennia building bigger weapons, larger ships, more impressive displays of power. But these humans, they had turned space itself into their weapon. "The question now," Captain Chen said, "is whether you want to continue this demonstration, or if you're ready to talk about peaceful cooperation. Either way, we'll be ready." The transmission ended, leaving behind a deafening silence. Dr. Zena turned to Admiral Kraz, her voice barely a whisper. "What do we do now?" Kraz stared at the hologram, watching the human ships dance through space like cosmic ballet dancers. "We learn," he said finally. For the first time in 10,000 years, we learn. Outside, the stars seemed to shimmer slightly, as if acknowledging that a new power had emerged, one that didn't need size to prove its strength. Deep within the Empire's central archive station, Dr. Zena's fingers flew across the holographic controls. Ancient records floated around her like glowing butterflies, each one containing thousands of years of space exploration history. "There has to be something," she muttered, her silver skin reflecting the blue glow of the data streams. Humans couldn't have developed this technology from nothing. Suddenly, her screen flashed red. Access denied. Temporal seal DTKTED. "That's strange," she whispered. Files from Earth's sector weren't supposed to be time-locked. She pressed her security override against the scanner, using her highest clearance level. The screen exploded with information, and Dr. Zena gasped. "Admiral," she called through the communication link. "You need to see this. Now." 20 minutes later, Admiral Kraz stood in the archive chamber, his 4 eyes wide as he read the classified files. This can't be right. The record showed something impossible. Human signatures in space from over 10,000 years ago, long before they had officially achieved spaceflight. "Play the recovered footage," Dr. Zena commanded. A grainy hologram appeared, showing an ancient space battle. The ships looked different, but the movement patterns were identical to the modern human fleet. The same ghost-like appearances, the same dimensional sliding, the same perfect precision. "They weren't developing this technology," Dr. Zena said quietly. "They were remembering it." Before Kraz could respond, every light in the archive station flickered. A new hologram appeared, Captain Chen again, but this time she looked different, more serious, almost sad. "I see you found our old family albums," she said. "We wondered how long it would take." "You knew we were looking," Kraz demanded. "Admiral, we've been watching your empire for a very, very long time." Chen's image walked through the floating data streams as if she were actually there. "Those records you found, they're not complete. Go back further." Dr. Zena's hand shook as she accessed even older files. New images appeared, human ships, fighting alongside the Empire's ancestors against a terrible darkness that consumed entire galaxies. "We were allies once," Chen explained, "partners in the First Great War against the Void Beings. But after the victory, your ancestors became afraid of our power. They tried to erase us from history, used temporal weapons to push our civilization back to the Stone Age." She touched one of the floating images, and it expanded to show Earth, but not as anyone knew it. Beneath the oceans, beneath the very crust of the planet, lay the remnants of an advanced civilization. "We didn't lose our technology, Admiral. We hid it, buried it within our own planet, within our own DNA. Every human child's first drawings of spaceships. They're not imagination, they're genetic memory." New screens lit up around them, showing human children from throughout history. Their toy spaceships, their drawings, their dreams, all of them matching the designs of the ancient fleet with stunning accuracy. "The small size of our ships," Chen continued, "not just for stealth. Each one contains a fragment of our original civilization's consciousness. We're not just flying ships, we're awakening our ancestors." As if to demonstrate, the human fleet outside began to glow with a strange, beautiful light. Each ship pulsed like a heartbeat, resonating with a frequency that seemed to speak to something deep within the fabric of space itself. "Those 3 battleships we disabled." A small smile crossed Chen's face. "We weren't attacking them. We were reminding them. The metal used in their construction came from our old ally ships. Even your technology remembers us, Admiral." Kraz sank into a chair, his military bearing forgotten in the face of this revelation. "Why show us this now?" "Because," Chen's image walked closer, her eyes reflecting stars that hadn't existed for millennia. "The Void Beings are coming back. And this time, we'll need more than just weapons to stop them. We'll need trust." She waved her hand, and new star charts appeared, showing something massive approaching from the gaps between galaxies. "So, Admiral Kraz, Dr. Zena," she said softly, "the real question isn't whether our ships are too small or our technology too strange. The question is, are you ready to remember what your ancestors tried so hard to forget?" The hologram faded, leaving them in the archive chamber surrounded by the truth of a history no one remembered. Outside, the human fleet continued its cosmic dance, each small ship now visibly pulsing with the wisdom and power of a civilization that had never truly been lost, only sleeping, waiting for the right moment to awaken. Dr. Zena looked at the approaching darkness on the star charts, then at the glowing human ships. "What do we do now?" Admiral Kraz stood up, straightening his uniform. "We do what they did 10,000 years ago," he said firmly. "We stand together." In space, the human ships began to sing, an ancient melody of unity that reached across time itself, calling both species back to a forgotten alliance that might be their only hope against the coming storm. In the heart of the Empire's flagship, something strange was happening. The metal walls had begun to pulse with a faint blue light, matching the rhythm of the distant human ships. Engineers rushed through corridors, their instruments going crazy as ancient patterns emerged from within the ship's structure itself. "It's like the entire ship is waking up," one engineer reported, his hands trembling as he showed Admiral Kraz the readings. "The metal, it's remembering." Dr. Zena stood at a control panel, her silver fingers dancing across the surface. "Look at this pattern," she whispered. "It's the same frequency as human brainwaves during deep sleep." Suddenly, every screen on the ship flickered to life. But instead of Captain Chen, they showed something else, a series of symbols floating in space, ancient and yet somehow familiar to everyone who saw them. A new voice filled the ship's communication system. Not Chen's, but older, deeper, carrying the weight of millennia. "Remember, children of both worlds." The symbols began to move, forming into complex patterns. As they watched, crew members found themselves mouthing words in a language none of them had ever learned, yet all somehow knew. "The language of stars," Dr. Zena gasped. "The original communication system between humans and our ancestors." Admiral Kraz's four eyes widened as memories that weren't his own flooded his mind. He saw great battles fought alongside humans, saw the terrible darkness of the void beings, saw the moment of betrayal when fear overcame friendship. "Your ships," he said suddenly, understanding dawning. "They're not just ships at all, are they?" The image of Captain Chen reappeared, but now they could see her differently. Around her human form, an ancient energy pattern danced, the same pattern now emerging from their own ship's walls. "No," she smiled. "They're keys to unlock what both our species buried deep inside our civilizations. Look." The view screen shifted to show Earth again, but this time they saw something new. The entire planet was changing. Vast structures, hidden for millennia beneath oceans and mountains, were awakening. The small fleet they had mocked was orchestrating a planetary transformation. "But that's impossible," Dr. Zena breathed. "The energy required to hide an entire civilization." "Unless," a young engineer interrupted, his eyes glowing with the same ancient light, "unless the energy wasn't hidden at all. What if it was hiding in plain sight?" He pointed to new readings appearing on his screen. The background radiation of space itself, what scientists had always dismissed as cosmic noise, was actually a complex pattern. A message, repeated endlessly throughout the universe. "The stars," Chen explained. "Every star in the galaxy is part of the pattern. We didn't just hide our civilization. We encoded it into the very light that fills the cosmos." As if responding to her words, the Empire's ships began to transform. Sections that had seemed purely structural revealed themselves as ancient technology, dormant for thousands of years. The massive battleships weren't just remembering. They were evolving. "The size of our fleet was never about military strategy," Chen continued. "Each ship is a note in a symphony, played across the stars themselves. Your massive ships. They're not just weapons platforms. They're amplifiers, designed to resonate with the cosmic frequency we established eons ago. Admiral Kraz watched in awe as his mighty fleet began to pulse in harmony with the human ships. The very space between them seemed to sing. But then, at the edge of their sensors, something responded to the awakening. A vast darkness, deeper than the space between galaxies, began to stir. "They feel it too," Chen said grimly. "The void beings. They know we're remembering." Dr. Zena's instruments detected massive energy distortions at the galaxy's edge. "They're coming faster now. The awakening is drawing them." "Good." Chen's expression was fierce. "Let them come, because this time we face them together, with the full power of both our civilizations." She turned to Admiral Kraz. "Your empire spent millennia building bigger ships, thinking size meant power. We stayed small, keeping our true nature hidden, waiting for this moment. Now it's time to show everyone why." The human ships began to move into a complex formation. As they watched, space itself seemed to bend around them, forming patterns that mirrored the ancient symbols still floating on their screens. "Admiral," Chen said, her voice carrying both command and plea, "your ships know what to do. The question is, do you trust the memories awakening inside them?" Kraz looked at his crew, saw the ancient knowledge blazing in their eyes, felt it stirring in his own blood. Making his decision, he gave the order that would change everything. "All ships, assume celestial harmony formation. It's time to remember who we really are." As the massive Empire fleet moved to join the tiny human ships, the stars themselves seemed to pulse in approval. The symphony of awakening had begun, and the void beings would soon learn why two civilizations had sacrificed everything to prepare for this moment. The real battle wasn't about size or power. It was about remembering what the universe had never truly forgotten. The void between stars began to ripple like dark water. The combined human and Empire fleets held their formation as space itself seemed to tear open, revealing something that defied description. The void beings emerged, not ships, not creatures, but living gaps in reality itself. Where they moved, stars dimmed and physics forgot its own rules. "By the ancient stars," Dr. Zena breathed, watching her instruments go haywire. "They're not just destroying space, they're unwriting it." Captain Chen's voice came through, calm despite the chaos. "Everyone, initiate stellar memory protocol. Now." The small human ships suddenly released streams of golden light, connecting to each other like a spider's web. The Empire's massive vessels, remembering their ancient purpose, began to pulse in response. "Admiral," Chen called, "look at your left hand." Kraz lifted his hand and gasped. Beneath his blue skin, patterns of light moved like flowing rivers. Around him, every member of his crew showed the same phenomenon. "The starlight," Dr. Zena realized. "It's been inside us all along. Our bodies, they're part of the defense system." The void beings surged forward, their non-existence threatening to erase everything in their path. But as they approached, something extraordinary happened. Every child on every planet in the Empire suddenly began to draw the same picture, not of ships or battles, but of a dance of stars and space, and time itself. "The children remember first," Chen explained, her voice filled with wonder. "They always do. Admiral, your people thought we made our ships small because we were weak. The truth, we made them small because the real power was never in the ships at all." As if to demonstrate, the human fleet began to move in perfect synchronization with the children's drawings. Each ship left trails of light that formed complex patterns in space, patterns that made the void beings recoil. "The patterns," Dr. Zena said, her eyes wide with understanding. "They're not just signals, they're memories. The universe's memories." The Empire's ships, guided by the awakened knowledge in their crews, began to move as well. The massive vessels no longer felt clumsy or oversized. They moved with the grace of dancers, their huge forms creating deeper harmonics in space itself. Captain Chen's image appeared again, but now they could see she wasn't just standing on her ship's bridge. She was connected to it, streams of starlight flowing through her body. Time to show them why size never mattered. Execute the stellar awakening. Every ship, human and empire alike, began to sing, not with sound, but with light and gravity and the very substance of space-time. The song rippled out, touching every star in range. And the stars answered. Stellar surfaces rippled. Solar flares reached out like fingers. The very nuclear fire at the heart of every star pulsed in harmony with the fleet's movement. The stars, Admiral Kraz whispered in awe. They're dancing with us. The void beings struck, their non-existence trying to erase the fleet. But where their darkness touched, it found something unexpected. Memories, not just of ships and battles, but of the very first moments of the universe, the birth of stars, the formation of galaxies, the eternal dance of creation itself. Dr. Zena's screens exploded with data. The small ships, they're not fighting the void beings. They're reminding space how to exist. Each human vessel now blazed like a miniature sun, their true purpose finally revealed. They were never meant to be weapons or even ships. They were memory anchors, holding the pattern of existence itself. The Empire's larger ships found their role too, their massive forms acting as amplifiers for this cosmic remembrance. Size hadn't mattered because every ship, every crew member, every child drawing pictures of the dance, all were part of one vast pattern. The void beings tried to retreat, but it was too late. The dance had begun, and the universe itself was remembering how to fight back. Look! An Empire crew member pointed at the view screen. Where the void beings touched the fleet's light patterns, they weren't being destroyed. They were being rewritten, their emptiness filled with the memory of existence. Captain Chen's voice rang out one last time. Remember, everyone. Remember what we all truly are. And in that moment, as stars danced and ships sang and space itself remembered its own nature, everyone understood. The human fleet wasn't small because of weakness. It was small because it only needed to be big enough to hold the memory of everything that ever was or would be. The real battle wasn't being fought with weapons or ships at all. It was being fought with the oldest power in existence, the universe's own memory of itself, awakened by the combined dance of two civilizations who had hidden this truth in plain sight for 10,000 years. As the void beings began to transform, their darkness filling with starlight, Admiral Kraz finally understood the true meaning of power. It was never about the size of your ships. It was about remembering who you really were. All of you, from the smallest child to the largest star, dancing together in the eternal pattern of existence itself. As the cosmic dance continued, something unprecedented began to happen. The void beings, bathed in the light of universal memory, started changing in ways no one had expected. Their darkness wasn't just being filled with light. It was revealing something hidden within their very emptiness. Admiral, Dr. Zena called out, her voice trembling with excitement. Look at these readings. The void beings. They're not our enemies. They're parts of the universe that forgot themselves. Captain Chen's image appeared, but this time she wasn't alone. Beside her stood a shimmering figure made of pure darkness and starlight, a transformed void being. We were wrong, Chen said softly. For 10,000 years, we thought we were preparing for a war. But we were actually preparing for a healing. The transformed void being spoke, its voice like wind through the spaces between stars. We were the forgotten dreams of the cosmos, the pieces of existence that were lost when time began. We came back not to destroy, but to find ourselves. Admiral Kraz watched in wonder as more void beings transformed. Each one became a beautiful fusion of darkness and light, their emptiness filled with the memories they had lost. The small fleet, Dr. Zena realized, that's why it had to be small. They're like acupuncture needles for the universe itself, finding the precise points where memory needed to be awakened. The human ships began a new formation, even more intricate than before. As they moved, they left trails of light that formed complex patterns in space. But now those patterns weren't just memories, they were bridges. "Watch," Chen commanded softly. The transformed void beings began to merge with the patterns, their combined darkness and light creating something entirely new. Where they touched, space itself became more real, more alive. Suddenly, children across the empire began to laugh. Their drawings changed, showing not just the dance of ships and stars, but impossible new colors, colors that had been lost since the beginning of time. The colors of creation, the transformed void being explained. The spectrum of reality that existed before light and dark separated. Your children remember because they're newest to existence, closest to the original dream. The Empire's massive ships found their final purpose. Their great size made them perfect anchors for the new reality being born around them. The metal of their hulls began to shift and flow, revealing intricate patterns that had been waiting since their construction. Your ancestors, Chen revealed, they didn't just build ships. They built cocoons for the universe's rebirth. Each vessel contains patterns of transformation that have been waiting for this moment. The space around the combined fleets began to change. Stars sparkled with new colors. The void between them filled with shimmering patterns that both eyes and instruments insisted couldn't exist. "It's not just the void beings transforming," Dr. Zenna gasped. "We're all changing. The entire universe is remembering how to dream again." Admiral Kraz felt it in his own body. The patterns under his skin were spreading, connecting him to everything around him. He could feel the thoughts of his crew, the songs of the stars, even the ancient memories hidden in the spaces between atoms. "The war," he said in wonder. "There never was going to be a war, was there?" "No," Chen smiled. "There was only ever going to be this, the moment when everything remembered how to be whole again." The transformed void beings began to sing, their voices harmonizing with the human ships and the Empire fleet. Each note carried memories older than time. The first moment of creation, the birth of the first star, the dream that reality had dreamed before it divided itself into light and dark. Children everywhere began to sing too, their voices somehow carrying through the vacuum of space. They sang of colors no one had ever seen, of shapes that couldn't exist, of a universe that was more whole and beautiful than anyone had imagined possible. The small human fleet, once mocked for its size, danced at the heart of it all. Each tiny ship moved with perfect precision, like needles stitching reality back together, helping the universe remember how to dream. The massive Empire ships transformed into crystalline structures of impossible beauty, their size now serving as cosmic anchors for the new patterns of existence emerging around them. "This," Captain Chen said, her voice filled with joy, "this is what we were preparing for all along. Not to fight the darkness, but to help it remember it was always part of the light." As space itself continued to transform around them, Admiral Kraz finally understood the deepest truth. The human fleet hadn't been built for war. It had been built to heal the universe's oldest wound, the separation of dream from reality, of darkness from light, of memory from existence itself. And as the transformation spread like ripples through the cosmos, every star began to shine with new colors, every piece of space began to sing, and every being, human, empire, and void alike, remembered what they had been before the universe forgot how to dream. The universe had begun to dream again, but what happened next surpassed even the wildest expectations of both humans and the Empire. As the transformed void beings danced with the fleets, circles of new reality spread outward like ripples in a cosmic pond. But these weren't just waves of energy. They were waves of possibility. Dr. Zenna's instruments had stopped trying to measure what was happening and instead started creating art, beautiful fractals that spelled out the mathematics of dreams and equations that sang. "Look," she cried out, pointing to something extraordinary. Where the small human ships and massive Empire vessels danced together, space was becoming transparent. Through this transparency, they could see other universes, not parallel dimensions, but potential realities that had never had the chance to exist. The forgotten possibilities, the transformed void being explained, its voice now a chorus of infinite variations. Every dream the universe didn't dare to dream, every path it was afraid to take. Captain Chen's image appeared, but now she seemed to exist in multiple states at once, each version of her representing a different potential of humanity. This was the real purpose of our small fleet, not just to remember what was, but to imagine what could be. The children who had been drawing and singing began to create new things, impossible things. Their artwork came alive, floating off pages and screens, joining the dance of ships and stars. Their songs became new colors, their laughter shaped reality itself. Admiral Kraz watched as his own body began to shift through different forms, each one showing a different path his species might have taken. We're not just remembering, he realized. We're reimagining everything. The small human fleet, still moving with perfect precision, began to weave these new possibilities into the fabric of space-time. Each ship became a needle threading dreams into reality. The Empire's massive vessels served as anchor points, their size finally finding its true purpose. They were the canvas upon which the new universe would be painted. But then something even more extraordinary happened. The transformed void beings began to merge with both fleets, their combination of darkness and light allowing ships to exist in multiple states at once. Each vessel became a core of possibilities, singing in harmony with the dreams of children and the mathematics of creation. It's time, Chen announced, her multiple forms speaking in harmony. Time for the symphony of creation. Every ship, every being, every particle of existence began to resonate with a sound that had never been heard since the first moment of time. The sound of the universe imagining itself. The small human fleet split into even tinier vessels, each one carrying a single note of this cosmic song. The Empire ships expanded, becoming vast chambers of resonance that amplified these notes across galaxies. Space itself began to fold like origami, creating new geometries of existence. Stars learned to dance in patterns that defied physics while honoring its deepest truths. Planets discovered they could dream, and their dreams became new forms of life. Dr. Zena's instruments finally gave up trying to measure anything and instead joined the symphony, turning into pure mathematics that danced with the music of reality. "Do you understand now?" Chen asked, her voice carrying the weight of infinite possibilities. "Why our fleet had to be small. Each ship is a word in the universe's new story, a note in its new song. Size never mattered because we weren't building weapons, we were building letters for a new alphabet of existence." The transformed void beings spread out across the cosmos, their darkness and light combining to create new spectrums of reality. Where they touched, existence learned to dream in new ways, combining what was with what could be. Children's drawings became blueprints for new dimensions. Their songs became the physics of impossible spaces. Their laughter taught gravity how to dance. Admiral Kraz, his body now a symphony of potential forms, finally understood the ultimate truth. The universe had never stopped dreaming. It had just forgotten how to share its dreams with itself. The small human fleet and the massive empire ships found their final purpose. They became the instruments through which the universe would tell its new story. A story where size and power meant nothing compared to the ability to dream and imagine. As the symphony of creation reached its crescendo, every particle of existence joined in the dance. The darkness between stars filled with new forms of light. The empty spaces became fertile grounds for possibility. Reality itself learned to improvise. And in that moment of supreme creativity, as the cosmos reimagined itself through the dreams of children and the songs of ships, everyone understood the deepest truth of all. The universe had never needed saving. It had only needed to remember how to play. The story of the tiny fleet became legend, not as a tale of war or power, but as the moment when existence itself remembered how to dream. And in every child's drawing, in every ship's dance, in every star's song, That dream continues to grow, creating new wonders in the endless symphony of possibility. The end, or perhaps the beginning.